Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Landscape Photography Processing. My name is Ian Cox. In this episode I want to cover a fairly common problem in photography in general, not just landscape images, and that is chromatic aberration. Now, if you haven't heard the term before, essentially chromatic aberration is the purple and green fringing that you get around edges, especially if you're working with a high contrast scene. Let me zoom into this image and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So where I've got this railway bridge, where there is the difference between the sky and the bridge, we've got this horrible sort of purple fringing to the arches in the bridge. Now, I want to get rid of this. I mean, it's not going to be that noticeable. If I zoom right out, yeah, you could see it a little bit. If I printed this off, maybe sort of A3, A4 size, you're probably not going to notice it. But me being the perfectionist that I am, I want to get rid of it. Now, there are various ways of doing this. First way is the one that I always try as a default, and that is to use the remove chromatic aberration checkbox in either Lightroom or Camera Raw. So let me just open up, I've imported this from Lightroom as a smart object into Photoshop. So I'll open it up in Camera Raw. I've done all my basic adjustments. Now, if we go to the Lens Corrections tab up here, click on Profile, you see a checkbox, Remove Chromatic Aberration. I've already checkboxed this, and you can see from when I zoomed in before, it's still there in quite significant amounts, so it hasn't really worked. And I found that this checkbox, it doesn't really do a fantastic job the majority of the time. Now, you can go into the Manual tab where you find a defringe slider, where you can slide the purple amount or the green amount, depending on what color your aberration are, and try and remove it that way. But I found the more that you use this, you get all sorts of other kind of fringing effects that start to take over as well. So what I want to do is remove this as naturally as possible without any side effects. So let me just cancel that, go back to our image. This is a picture of the lovely Ribblehead Viaduct, an old Yorkshire kind of monument, Victorian bridge built in the 1800s. It's a railway bridge, still functioning today, but it's an old classic view with the path leading up to the bridge. It was shot at a sort of winter sunset, so the sun's setting off to the left here, but the contrast of the sunlight hitting the bridge is what's causing this chromatic aberration, and chromatic aberration is caused by the lens of your camera. Usually you'll find that lenses at the cheaper end of the spectrum will suffer from this a lot worse than the more expensive lenses, but it's just a fact of photography. A lot of the time it's just going to be there in these kind of high contrast scenes. So the first method I'm going to try is what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the original layer by pressing Ctrl and J. I'm just going to rasterize this layer just for the sake of speed. Now let's zoom right into where the problem areas were again. So it's around these arches of the railway bridge. So I'm just going to zoom right in. Now what I want to do is blur this out essentially, but without affecting the edges or the detail in the bridge. And we zoomed right in at 600%, so that it's quite pixelated, but it'll give you a best view of what this effect does. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Filter and then Blur, Gaussian Blur. Now I want to blur this an amount where that purple color becomes less apparent. So I'm just going to grab my slider, just start moving it up. Usually just a few pixels should be fine. So it's disappearing. Don't worry about the detail, we're going to bring that back. So about 5 or maybe 6 pixels is where the purple coloring becomes a lot less apparent. So let's go with that. The next thing we do is use our blending modes. So where it says normal, the drop down box here, you want to change that to color. Now what color blending mode does is only affects the color in the image. So the adjustment you just made will only take place on the colors. It won't have any effect on the luminosity or the details or the saturation or anything like that. So just by clicking color, magically we bring back the detail in the bridge and the purple color has gone. However, this isn't perfect. As a side of that effect of that, we've now got this kind of white fringing going on. We've got where the grey and the bricks of the bridge is. We've got this kind of sort of pinky peachy colour where the colour from the sky's bled in. So let me give you a before, after. Again, it's a perfectly satisfactory job. You know, again, if you printed this off, you probably wouldn't notice a great deal. But like I said, me being a perfectionist, I want to make sure, I want to try and get rid of this purple color without affecting the surrounding pixels as much as I can. So how do we do this? So let me just delete this blurred layer. So what we first need to do is extract this purple color in the form of a selection. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to zoom right in. We're going to get right in close to these pixels. I'm going to go to select color range. Now select color range, you'll get this little box here with fuzziness sliders on it, and you also get a little eyedropper. Now what you're going to do is eyedropper is just take one of the purple colors and click it once. You probably won't see a great change there because there's not a great deal of purple in this image. What you then want to do is you want to take this plus eyedropper tool here, so the middle one out of the three, and you just want to go across each pixel and just pick out all the different shades of purple that are in there. So just make sure you get all the light purples and the dark purples. Make sure all your bases are covered. So what we're doing, we're just selecting anything that is purple in this image. So that should give me a good overview. Now the fuzziness slider basically determines the range, so what range of colors you're going to be selecting outside of what you have clicked. So put the fuzziness at 0, it's only going to select the color of the pixels that are selected. If you put it right up there, it's going to select tons of pixels. We don't want that, so I'm just going to bring this down until you can maybe just see a few little dots of color in here. We're going to mask this in selectively, so it doesn't really matter what's selected on other parts of the image. We're just after what's on the bridge. So probably about there is going to be maybe about 50. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay, so click OK, and what happens is you get these marching ants appear. So that means what is selected will be within inside these marching ants. Now I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. Now first thing I'm going to do is press Control and H to hide these marching ants, because I want to see where I'm painting. And to be perfectly frank, they just get a bit annoying being in there all the time. Next thing I'm going to do is create a new layer where this sort of bit of paper with a folded tab over is. Just click that and you're going to have a layer come up. Now what you want to do is put this layer, again we want to use color blending mode, so we're only wanting to affect the color. We're not wanting to affect the lights or the darks or anything like that. So color blending mode. Take a brush, so press B or select your brush tool. What you want to do is put your opacity and flow all the way to 100%. Hold down the Alt key and you want to select a color off the whatever it is is next to where your chromatic aberration is. So in this case it's the bridge. I'm going to select this sort of grey, sort of yellowy grey color, and that should bring up that color in our palette there. And very simply what you want to do is just paint over where that chromatic aberration is showing up, and there you go, it disappears. So before, after, before, after. So what we've done, we've removed that purple fringing without affecting any of the colors within the bridge, and we can just go over to wherever our other chromatic aberrations do the same thing. Make sure you sample a color, so holding down Alt to get your eyedropper tool, sample a color from right next to where this chromatic aberration is happening. And it can, it can take a bit of time. If you've got tons of chromatic aberration in your images, it may take a bit of time, but the results are definitely worth it. I can probably spend a fair bit of time finding all the different places. I mean, there's always a little bit of a few pixels of purple in here as well where the light's hitting it, but yeah, you can spend time in your own images figuring out where the chromatic aberration is. So, and there we go. So that's the most accurate way of removing that I've found. So again, let's zoom out to 200%. Before, after, zoom back in. You might not be able to see that too well in the video. So before, after, before, after. And if you think the effect might be a little bit too strong, you can always just drop the opacity just a little bit. So I can go down to about 65%. It's still doing a pretty good job. If you go down much lower than that, your aberration is going to come back. So you can just dial this in until it just looks nice and natural. So let's look at another example. So this was where the sunlight was hitting a sort of a backlit bridge at sunset. My next image, I've got a nice picture of a waterfall, which is again in Yorkshire in the UK. Now here we won't have much chromatic aberration problems in the main image. You know, there's a lot of details in the rocks and the water, etc. But there's no kind of direct light hitting them. The amount of contrast there isn't enough to create that fringing problems. However, up in the sky, and this is where you'll find a lot of chromatic aberration problems, is where you have trees. So you have sunlight and trees and leaves equals a lot of chromatic aberration issues. So you may not be able to see this. Let me zoom right into this image. So you see around the tree branches. So again, going right into 600%, you can see all over there's just huge patches and swathes of horrible purple fringing, which again, if I printed it up to a sort of A3 size, probably wouldn't notice that much, but I want to get rid of it. And you probably see it around the fence posts up here as well. So again, let's use the same technique. Let's go back to where that big tree trunk was, because there was a lot of chromatic aberration in here. So again, I'm going to go to select color range, and we're just going to click your eyedropper tool once on a purple bit, select your plus eyedropper tool to add to your selection, and I'm just going to click on all these individual purple pixels just to make sure I get the full range of purples. And you can see in the box in here, I'm picking up a fair bit. This is quite a lot of purples in here. There's quite a lot of different shades of purple as well. So you just want to make sure you click as many as possible. If you see this getting quite sort of contrasty, you always just drop your fuzziness just a little bit to help you out there. But yeah, that should be fine. Again, we're going to mask this in selectively, so all this stuff that you selected around here won't matter. So I'm going to click OK here, and you should see the marching ants. Yep, it's selecting a lot of the purple gunk that's in there. So I'm going to press Ctrl H, hide that again. New layer, as before. We're going to put our blend mode to color, take brush tool, and in this picture I'm going to be a bit more selective with my colors. So where this branch is, I'm going to select this kind of nice sort of browny color. Again, it doesn't, when you're using color blending mode, it doesn't really matter whether you select from right in the shadows or a lighter bit, as long as the color is there. You're not affecting the luminosity at all. So I'm just going to start painting this out very slowly. Just make sure I get the right hit the right places with the right colors. Now, if this gets a little bit too laborious for you, what you can do is just be a little bit more aggressive with this brush. So if I zoom out a little bit, you can actually make your brush a lot bigger, because we've just got the purple selected. If we can go into where these trees are, I want to select this kind of nice yellowy greeny color, and you just start painting, and it will start just painting out anything that's purple, and you can be sort of fairly aggressive. In fact, again here, I'm going to select this darker green for these branches. So again, you're trying to match up the colors to the surrounding areas, and you could be a little bit more aggressive if you want to zoom right out, you know, just start painting over here. Again, if I had more time, I would probably do this a little bit more accurately, but for the sake of the video, and you know, you probably won't notice that much, you can just be quite sort of prolific with this brush, and it's just going to get rid of your chromatic aberration just as well. So let me just select this branch, got this green here, and got sort of browny color in here. It's getting rid of that. Let's go over to the other side of the image, got more of this lovely sort of bright color. I'm just going to go right through there with that. Probably a load of chromatic aberration in here. This trunk, select the tree trunk. I'm just going to do one pass over that. Anything purple in there is going to get covered up. Again, this branch here. Now I'm going to move on to the fence, because I think the fence might be a slightly different color to the trees. So selecting this fence, or this gate, this fence post color, I'll make the brush a little bit smaller and just do a pass. You can just do two passes if you want, if it doesn't quite get it the first time. Again, going in here, just select, or hold down Alt, select your color, start painting, hold on Alt, select your color, start painting. There's a load more there. Now in this, this is like an iron fence here. I want to select this kind of darker color and just go through like so. And there we go. Again, I could probably spend a fair bit of time looking through this image and finding out all the different areas where their aberration is. But just going back to where our original aberration was, and just do a before and after. So there's before, whole load of purple, load of gunk and gook attached itself to these branches, it looks like. But just with a simple layer in color blending mode and selecting those purples, we've managed to get rid of them. So before, after, before, after. And there you go. Well, I hope this helped you out. If you're a perfectionist like myself and you really want to get rid of this fringing, and your Lightroom or your Camera Raw tick box doesn't do it for you, this is by far the best way of doing it. It can be a little bit time consuming, but the results are definitely worth it. So thanks again for watching. Please like and subscribe if you want to see future videos. Hopefully have quite a number of episodes in the pipeline for you guys. Any constructive comments I will welcome. Any ideas for future videos, please let me know. And hopefully see you again in the next video. Bye bye.